Good afternoon, Professor Farina.
Hello.
Was there a particular event, or was it more of an organic process that influenced your love for film, video, and writing?
It was organic in the sense that it was as natural as anything else that evolved in my personality.
Well, I think that by being a teacher and a professor, aren't you inspiring young filmmakers, young writers to do their own films, do their own videos? And isn't that a way of you performing also?
Every class meeting is always showtime. Always like right before, every class is a performance. 10 minutes to show and keeping the energy up the whole time. And 3 times a day, yeah, it's a deep commitment. When I began to commit myself fully, not just Christy the teacher, but Christy the person fueling the teacher, the commitment began paying dividends in terms of the outtake and intake, the flow between the students and me and the classes and me. And ever since then, it's been it's always been my right livelihood, and now it's the joy of my life to teach as well. You know, I just found this book. It was called When the Robin Talks. I wrote it when I was 7. It's pretty good. And I was like, wow.
Have you written since then?
Yeah, I published a book in 2000 with an indie press. That was the beginning of when they started doing, like...
Desktop publishing?
Yes, that, right, yeah. It was called Calamity's Walk, and it was a collection of short stories and poems.
What did you write about? In some of your short stories, poetry you write.
Yes, I could condense that book down to a theme of New York City in winter. It's the spiritual ghost side of our existence that we can't prove exists. That's probably pretty much the book in a nutshell.
Can you give me a description of your writing process? When I say that, I mean, do you write in verse? Do you drink coffee when you write?
The first thing that popped to mind when you asked me that question is that I suffer from that thing that people have where you have to pee in the middle of the night and you don't want to get out of bed.
Yes.
You wake up with an idea and now you have to get writing. You ever have that happen?
Yes. A dream or something influences it. I just have to do it.
And I lay there. I'm always a negotiation that ends up with futility because I do it because you have to, right?
Well, the spirit of the muse is telling you to.
Yeah, I know, but why do they wait till 3 in the morning? Can't they come in a decent hour?
Maybe they're in a different time zone. Maybe they're in the Greek time zone.
Could be. The initial mountain of discipline eventually gives way to living for it. I can't wait. I work 14-hour days when I come in, when I see, and I still go home, and then I can't wait to go home back to whatever I'm writing or editing, right? And it's a whole other, and it keeps me up all night. But it's the energy of creation, right? So
yes.
How do you ignore it, right?
You can't ignore it,
right? It's a real, and as it becomes more and more real with an entity that's separate from myself, it becomes more and more enticing. To me, I've always felt that it was just something coming from the Platonic other world.
The world of ideas.
Yeah, and I become the channel.
Versus the shadow world. You're outside the cave.
When I finished Gamers, a feature-length documentary I did a few years ago. You know at the end of Lord of the Rings when Frodo finally gets Gollum to die and then the eagle's taken away. There's this shot of Elijah Wood, and he's like, you know the shot?
Yes, I do.
When I finished, the second I finished it, I went to look at that, and that is how it felt. Comes from within me. I've always felt that I have the magnetism for whatever wants to talk through me. And like Napoleon, when Napoleon got exiled.
Oh, yes, yes.
He wrote that he felt that whatever muses had led him to such greatness had left him. And he said he felt the way I felt when Gamers was done.
Sure.
As it is.
Empty. Exhausted.
Yeah, just exhausted. And like, whatever the electricity is in your creation, the electricity dissipated and disappeared. So, and I understood Napoleon when I read that. I was like, I know exactly what he's talking about, you know. So I never felt it came out of me. I never felt that way.
So the muse takes you, something makes you, and it goes inside you, and then you have to
Right,
bring
work
it out.
And that's where the ironworking comes in, and and learning to trust your intuition, and then in filmmaking, I have lots of, especially with Gamers. As I said, I used to edit all night, and like sometimes I would get that particular urgency, and a lot of times I would go out to the backyard, and there'd be something very, very unusual happening. There was always magical things if I just trusted when I heard the voice, so to speak. If I trusted it, I was never let down.
At the start of your film, like Gamers that you mentioned, or Calamity's Walk, now do you draw up an outline? This is part of your writing process, or are you just going with the flow, and then later you're putting it all together?
The similarity between the two forms for me is getting all the information out and then culling it down, especially with the editing. Like, the fundamental problem with Gamers was finding a narrative thread and then building the action and making a climax where there wasn't an inherent story. In writing, the only difference I would say is usually with writing will happen, you know what, most times it will be a word will come to me, and from that I'll sit down and vomit out whatever it needs to be, and then I'll go back and edit it. But it comes out in one burst. But in either case, it's just lots of information.
Right. In both cases, it sounds like it's editing.
Yeah, like the thing is there. It just doesn't expose itself to the artist, and you have to find it, and it's really petulant about it. Like I fight so much with. Do you fight with your writing?
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for taking a couple of minutes out of your busy schedule.
Yes, you're welcome.